Good morning, it's Friday morning and this is our thought for today. Our thought for the weekend as we face another weekend. As always, I hope and pray that you have a chance to get time with family and friends, a time to relax and get refreshed and hopefully get back to church on Sunday. We'd love to see you there if you haven't been back yet. This morning we're thinking really about this barrage of questions that Jesus fires at his disciples. Now, I've been saying all week that there's this frustration within Jesus, and I genuinely do believe that there is, that he's getting a wee bit fed up with the disciples not listening or not properly understanding. He's getting certainly very fed up with the Pharisees at the start of the week and what was going on there. And he starts to ask the disciples a number of questions, and it's almost as if, you know, when you would maybe go to the doctor and the doctor would say, so what's the problem? How can I help you? And you begin to say, well, I've got an issue with such and such. And then the doctor might say, well, how is your this and how is that and what level is this and maybe we should test that or whatever. And there's a sense of, well, look, we need to get to the bottom of what's going on here. So he asks or she asks a raft of questions that hopefully will bring out an answer at the end of the day. And Jesus is quite frustrated, I feel, with the disciples not being able to understand this sense of it's right in front of them, they've seen it, but what will it take for you to actually fully understand it? And it does come out a little bit later on, and we're going to be thinking about this on Sunday, this idea of what actually Jesus squeezes from the disciples by way of confession of faith, etc. But today we're looking at this barrage of questions. He asks a number of questions. He first of all says, this is verse 17, why are you discussing the fact that we have no bread? In other words, listen, this is daft. You know the bread's not an issue. We've just done 2 incredible days where we fed thousands and thousands of people, and you're worried that I can't make that loaf in your hands go a little bit further. Don't be talking about the bread. He says, do you not yet perceive and understand? In other words, is your brain not working? Is it actually a problem with your brain because you don't seem to be able to process what has actually been happening? Does your brain not work? Then he says, are your hearts hardened? Okay, so if it's not your brain, if your brain is okay, is it a problem that your heart has become so hardened that you can't allow your heart to believe what you've actually seen? And then he says, well, maybe it's not an issue with your brain or your heart. Maybe the problem is your eyes are the problem. Having eyes, do you not see? Oh, it's maybe not your eyes. Then what about your ears? Having ears, do you not hear? And do you not remember? Have you lost your memory as well? Jesus is basically saying, look, you have a brain to work this out. Use your brain. Understand what you've seen happen. Understand what has gone on so that you can process it and realize who I am and what's been happening. If it's not your brain, is your heart so hardened that you're not prepared to allow your heart to become softened and actually believe? Believe in your heart? You figured it out in your head. Can you not let your heart believe it? If it's maybe not your heart, then Jesus says it must be an issue with your eyes. You must be blind. You must not be able to see the things that have happened in front of you, the things that I've been doing. No, it's not your eyes. Well, then maybe, can you not hear me? Is it your ears? Have you a problem with your hearing? Or has your memory gone? Somehow you've got short-term memory. You can't remember what happened from one moment to the next. Jesus is basically saying, no, there's nothing wrong with your brain. There's nothing wrong with your heart. There's nothing wrong with your eyes or your ears. There's nothing wrong with your short-term memory. So what's the problem? Why can't you allow this to become a reality for you? Everything else is working fine. It's obvious. It's right in front of you. You know what's been going on. And so he asks this question, when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you take up? I said to him, 12. I said, and the 7 for the 4,000, how many basketfuls of broken pieces did you take up? And they said to him, 7. And there's no evidence here that there's a pause. But part of me would like to believe there's almost a sense that Jesus paused, almost allowing that penny to drop, that realization to dawn on them. And then verse 21, and he said to them, do you not yet understand? In other words, it's right before you. It's clear as the nose on the front of your face. None of you have brains or eyes or ears or minds that aren't working or hearts that are hardened. For some reason, you just don't understand. And it's almost like in saying this, Jesus is giving them permission to then fully believe who he is. But Mark doesn't take us to that bit yet. That bit comes in verse 27. As I said, we're going to be thinking about that on Sunday. But there's this sense of, there's not so much the fact that they don't understand. It's almost as if they haven't allowed themselves to understand. They haven't allowed themselves to make that confession. And the confession, I'm going to jump ahead of the confession, is that Jesus is who he is. What would it take if you haven't yet realized who Jesus is? What would it take for you to make that confession for yourself, to say, Jesus, the evidence is so in front of me. I've heard it preached. I've read it for myself. I've heard people speaking on it. I know you've been talking to me. I can't deny it any longer. It's evidence that demands a verdict. And the verdict is that the evidence is mounted against disbelief. The evidence is there for me to accept and realize who Jesus is. So the question, I suppose, this morning is, if you haven't yet confessed Christ, what's stopping you? Are you missing one of your faculties? No, I don't think you are. Maybe today's the day to start saying, I can't deny it any longer. It's obvious to me that Jesus is who he said he was. And if that's the case, then I need to respond. And if I can be of any help to you in responding or trying to work that out and what that means for you moving forward, please don't hesitate to get in touch. This is really important. And that's why we leave it on a Friday morning. You've got the weekend to think it over and to chew it over and see how it all pulls together. So I want to leave it with you. And in the meantime, I pray that you will be able to realize who Jesus is. If you haven't already done so, if you have done so, start sharing him with others. Have a good weekend. God willing, we'll see you soon. God bless.